Hello and welcome to the Monroe Method Clancast. I am Jason Monroe. This is episode 152. I feel very good this morning, despite it being absolutely freezing. 2 degrees. That's winter. Winter temperatures. But the shorts are still on. They're not going away yet. Right. I don't know what this episode's going to be called. Let's just see what direction it takes. But I want to talk about something I spoke to a client about yesterday that reminded me of this train of thought that I don't really think I've ever discussed on here, which is fun. There's this idea that when we decide we're going on a diet, when we decide we're going to lose weight, that it's like, okay, I am 14 stone. No, that's too much. I am 12 stone and I want to be 10 stone, right? So you have 2 stone to lose. That's a nice round number. And then that becomes the main focus, the obsession. I'm not going to stop until I see 10 stone on the scale. And people create this idea that, dieting is this unbreakable thing. Like you're supposed to just keep going and going and going until you see the number on the scale. You can't take any breaks. And again, this ties back into yo-yo dieting. It ties back into people that treat their weight as an annual event, right? It can be hard to shift your thinking like this. So like because of the way that I do things, right? Everything that I do inside the Monroe Method is about helping people lose weight for the last time. Does that mean you'll never diet again for the rest of your life? It doesn't, but it means that you're never going to go through a 4 stone loss, a 5 stone loss, a 3 stone loss ever again, right? You're maybe going to come out the other side of winter 5 or 6 pounds heavier because it was Christmas and New Year, and you go into a deficit for a few weeks and you're back to normal again. That's what we're trying to get to, right? What we don't want to be doing, because that's not yo-yo dieting, that's maintenance while making small adjustments here and there. What we don't want to do is, and again, yo-yo dieting is not just your weight going up and down, it's switching between different versions of your diet. This is how I eat when I'm losing weight. This is how I eat when I'm gaining weight. But yeah, we'll start here. It's important to understand that weight maintenance is not your weight staying at the exact same number for the rest of your life and never going anywhere ever. That's not how it works. My weight swings between 11.5 and 12 stone throughout the year. That's what weight maintenance is. Let's go back hundreds of years when you had to grow your own food, rear your own food, kill and skin your own food, hunt it, gather it, forage it. In the months of plenty, when there was lots of things around to eat, people packed on the pounds. It was intentional because you don't know what the winter's going to bring. There might be a failed crop, disease might go through your livestock, a barn might fucking burn down, I don't know. I wasn't here 300 years ago. and then what? You're in trouble because you've got nothing to eat. But the good news is, because you packed on all that fat through the summer, you're going to survive on that through the winter. You're going to eat and ration, and you're going to eat the meat and fish that you dried throughout the summer to last you through the winter. It's not a lot, but a couple of bits a day will see you through. You just have to make it through to spring again. By spring, everybody's skin and bones, but things are happening. Whatever happens at that time, people start eating more, things are all right. Some people die through the winter. That's how it was back then. But, it's our bodily functions were super helpful back then, right? Gaining fat was useful. I'm going to put fat on to help me through the winter so that I've got fat to run on through the winter. People hundreds of years ago probably understood body fat better than we do today. Today, it's just an annoyance. Oh, look, there's the scales up again. Well, I've come back from holiday 1/2 stone heavier. Like, it's a pain in the arse. We hate it. Whereas, go backwards, and it was a positive thing. It was useful. It was helpful. It was required. It was a necessity. We'll fatten ourselves up in the summer because we know what the winter's going to be like. So yo-yo dieting is eating in a way that makes your weight go up for months on end before you decide you're unhappy and you want to do something about it, and then eating differently in diet mode for months on end until it gets back down to somewhere you're happy with, rinse and repeat. Maintenance is eating the same all the time. Like, you're not in the same way that when you're eating to gain weight, you have a bunch of habits that you perform every day. It's unhelpful, they're not great, but you still do them every day. We're trying to get to a point where you're eating in a way that doesn't lead to that, right? You make sure you're eating well most of the time, so that the some of the time stuff is a non-issue. Once you get to that point, you're still going to lose and gain weight, but it's going to be seasonal weight gain. So Christmas and New Year, there's going to be more food around, more bits and pieces. You don't wander away from the basics. You don't say, fuck it, it's Christmas. You keep doing the basics most of the time. The some of the time stuff increases, and you get to the 3rd of January and your weight's up by 4 or 5 pounds. Big deal compared to the stones it used to be in the past. And then you perform maintenance on your weight if that's what you want to do. 4 or 5 pounds, open a MyFitnessPal, dip into a deficit for 3 weeks, done. That's me done for the year, back to normal. My weight's back to where I'm more comfortable with it being, and it's going to stay there because I've got the habits in place, I've got the balanced diet in place. And then, I don't know, Easter comes around and it's half term and you're off with the kids for 2 weeks. Or you go on a holiday and your weight goes up by 2 or 3 pounds, and then it's up to you. Do you want to perform maintenance on your weight? Are you happy to keep your weight here? That's what the future's supposed to look like. It should not be, 14 stone again. I suppose I better do something about it, and then going into diet mode. Right, let's not lose the thread of what I was talking about. I had to pause to cross the road there, and I lost my place. So, we understand what maintenance is, and we are coming back to the topic of this, right? So, people think that you're supposed to go on a diet and you are supposed to live and breathe diet every day until you see the magic number on the scale. And like I said, I get that. That's how yo-yo dieters think. Because yo-yo dieters treat their weight as an annual event, and you're supposed to get it to where you want to be as quick as you can so you can get back to normal. Now, part of the work that I have to do with people is to get them to think differently, right? To let them know that you do not have to do it all at once. And again, coming back to the way that I do things, because I'm trying to help people lose weight for life, right? It's not this, we need to get this done as quickly as possible. It's we need to do this right. We need to do it properly. Yes, that means it's probably going to take a little longer, and that's okay. And then it's about helping them understand that, okay, so you're going to work with me and you have got nothing on for the next 2 months. Great. Let's make a good start on your weight loss. And now it's summer and you're going on holiday for 2 weeks. Awesome. So this next 2 weeks are not going to be about weight loss. They're not going to be about tracking. They're going to be about taking everything that you've learned over the last 2 months to a different country and applying it there, applying the basics most of the time. And this is essentially you practicing for what holidays are going to be like in the future. So go enjoy your holiday. Act in the way that you have been over these last 2 months. Be the future version of yourself. Understand that you're on holiday. And yes, it's likely you're going to gain a few pounds, but you should not be going on holiday and coming back 10 pounds heavier because you've been excessively eating and drinking every single day. That's you just going back to the old version of you, the same old version of you that you came to work with me to try to stop being. And it's the other thing that I have to help people get into the mindset of is that, you know, that just because you're not in a deficit doesn't mean that you automatically go in the opposite direction and start gaining weight. Remember, this is just going to be the absence of a calorie deficit. There's 3 things your weight can do, not just 2. I think this is the thing that messes a lot of people up. Like when they're not losing weight, they're gaining weight. And if they're not gaining weight, they're dieting and losing weight. They don't get much experience in the middle ground. Write this one down, right? Weight loss might be the opposite of weight gain, but it's not the only other option. The absence of weight gain is maintenance. The absence of weight loss is maintenance. So if you go on holiday and you were dieting before it, you're not going on holiday to go in the opposite direction. You're going on holiday to practice what it's going to feel like when you're not in a deficit and not gaining weight. So, back to the point. When we're not yo-yo dieting, can you hear those birds above me? I wonder if that's them flying south for the winter. That's a big, massive arrow shape of geese flying in formation. They've realised it's 2 degrees and they are out of here. Africa, here we come. So, when we're not yo-yo dieting, we're not treating our weight as this thing that has to be done and dusted as quickly as possible, right? It's not, you've not done the calculations and said, right, I have 2 stone to lose, that's £28, right? If I can lose £2 per week, I'll do that in 14 weeks. And, but, that shit just goes out the window. Nobody ever achieves that. That's just fantasy land. So part of the work I do is getting people to understand that it does not have to happen all at once. It is not a rush. We're going to do it properly, and doing it properly means not chasing the finish line. The reason I wanted to make all that clear is to get to the point of a conversation that I had with someone yesterday who came to work with me, and she likes cakes. When we did our stuff on day 7, she spoke a lot about cakes. She loves baking. She loves going to the bakery. Going to the bakery is her weekend thing. She follows the bakery on social media. They post new stuff, and then she gets FOMO. She has to go get it and try it. And yes, she likes cake. I'm not going to dispute that. But there's something else involved here, right? Now, I am not going to speak with absolute certainty here because I don't know this person well enough to say this. But based on experience, I'm going to tell you what I think is probably going on. This person perhaps doesn't have a great social life. They maybe work from home. They maybe spend a lot of time indoors. I know they don't exercise. They don't go out for walks. They don't do anything after work. They sit in front of the TV at night. Now, it could be that this person doesn't have a hobby, doesn't have a great social life, doesn't meet up with friends too often, things like that. And so there is a part of their life that feels a little bit empty. And then this bakery opened, and it's a very popular bakery, and they've got a social media page, and it creates a buzz. And one day they said, oh, let's go to that bakery this weekend. And it filled that cup. It filled that getting out of the house cup. It filled that having something to do cup, that weekly event cup, that cup of, getting through the working week while having something to look forward to at the weekend. Oh, I can't wait. Saturday morning we'll get to go to the bakery. And then so it cemented itself as a habit. So I'm not going to dispute that the person likes cake, like who doesn't? But they probably don't like it that much. And they've convinced themselves that they've got some sort of obsession. And I hate that word. I genuinely detest that word because people, oh my God, obsessed. People use it for everything. You're not obsessed. You're into it. I like climbing mountains. I'm not fucking obsessed with them. I've got 2 dogs. I'm not obsessed with them. Obsessed is such an overused, exaggerated word. Anyway, irrelevant. But people believe that they have obsessions over particular things. Oh my God, I can't stop doing this. I can't stop eating these. I can't stop going to that bakery. Can't stop going to McDonald's. I can't stop stopping at the drive-thru. At Costa, I'm so obsessed. Like, you're not. Costa coffees taste like shit. McDonald's is hardly one of the best meals that you've ever eaten. What happens is you build habits around these things because they fill a gap, right? Forget the food. Forget food. It's got nothing to do with food. It's got nothing to do with hunger or eating or drinking coffee. It's the habit and what that habit does. I'm going to give you a great example. She's not interested in going anymore because she was forced to not be able to go. She's now had to find other things to do on a Saturday. And the other things have now taken over from the bakery. And it reopened. They went to the bakery and she didn't get anything. Because the habit had been broken. Now, if someone was so obsessed with this bakery, would you not be counting down the seconds till it reopened? Would you not be one of the first customers through the door? She wasn't obsessed with the cakes. She wasn't obsessed or the fear of missing out or any of that stuff. She liked the cakes, liked the idea of it, liked all the new stuff that they were making. But it was this is my weekly event. This is this is the thing that we do. This is what we look forward to all week. This is what me and my partner talk about. Can't wait to get out for our cakes on Saturday. Like, if you've ever, excuse me. If you've heard me talk about the 6 facets of health before, I can't remember what they all are. I always forget. We have these, think of these 6 facets of health. So health is not just the food that you eat or the exercise that you do, right? This is what I was taught when I was doing my nutrition course. The MNU, that was the name of my course, MNU, Mac Nutrition Uni. 6 facets of self. So it's physical, psychological, mental. So physical, mental, social, economical, can't remember. But there's another 2, right? And all of these are cups that need to be filled. And what happens is we try to fill the wrong cups with the wrong things. So for example, your mental health. What would your mental health be dependent on? Fresh air, sunrise, not spending all your time indoors. Some of them can cross over, so your mental health might cross over into social health. Part of your psychological health might be spending time with others. You might be a single parent or a parent on maternity leave, and your only companionship is a toddler for conversation all day, and all you want is some damn bloody adult conversation. That could impact your mental health, but it's also part of your social health. Now, when we don't do the right things for each version of health, we then start to we try to force other things to fill them. And one of the most common ones that we use to try and fill every gap in our life, every empty space inside of us, metaphorically, is food. So trying to use food to fix your mental health, using it to relieve stress, using it to cope with your emotions. Social health. You might be lonely. You might be bored. So you go and you snack. Whereas, in this instance, like this person had found going to the bakery to be their thing. That filled a cup. It still involved food, but it was still a weekly event. Something that helped their mental health. It helped them get through the week. It helped their social life because it got them out the door with partner and family and whoever else went. But when it shut for a few weeks, the habit was broken. Because that's all it was. So it wasn't about going and getting cake. It was about going and getting all the other stuff that they got from the behaviour. People think they're obsessed with chocolate. You're not. You're obsessed with what chocolate does for you, what it feels like. Yes, it tastes nice. But let's be honest, like most of the chocolate you're eating tastes like shit. You're buying bars of dairy milk that the recipe has changed so much over the years, all you're eating is bloody palm oil. If you're getting hyped up about eating bars of low quality, shitty chocolate, you're probably not a chocolate person. You're someone who's using that to cope with something else. You're using it, you're trying to extract something from that chocolate that you can take to fill one of these other cups. So the reason that I started off talking about like the dieting thing, right? People think that they have to diet until the finish line. You don't. And the consistency was the other thing I wanted to talk about. People think they need to find a way of being consistent for, the year and a half it's going to take them to lose 5 stone. That's not the case at all. You need to think much shorter term, right? You only need to be consistent enough to feel better. Give you another example. When I stopped drinking alcohol, I had got to a point where I only drank alcohol like the handful of big occasions throughout the year, and then 4 or 5 beers at the Formula One, watching the Grand Prix at the weekend. Because that Russian Grand Prix was cancelled with the war, that meant there was a 3-week break in the F1. That 3-week break, combined with my desire to push alcohol aside, was the right combination of things to break that habit. To break it long enough to feel good. To break it long enough to feel the benefits, to feel good about the decision, so that when the F1 came around again, it was a less desirable thing. I can't remember, but I probably went out and got some alcohol-free beers, because I was drinking alcohol-free beers quite often in between. So I wasn't completely new to the alcohol-free stuff. So yeah. And I think this is one of the great things about the way that I do stuff inside the Monroe Method, where the 30-day course, because there's so many different things going on each day, It's chopping and changing. Like the first 15 days, there's daily lessons to catch up on. And it's less, it's not like, okay, I've just been handed a diet plan. Now I need to follow it for a week and then I'll speak to someone in a week's time. It's not like that. Because one of the things people struggle with is getting started. So if you can give them a kind of start-up plan, and this is why I went back and changed the way that I did everything. If you can give people different things to do, different things to focus on, little homeworks to do, something different every day, they're more likely to engage and get going. Because like in the first week, I don't give people calories to follow from day one. The first week is spent working on the way that you think. That alone is enough to kick people out of a lot of the unhelpful stuff that they were doing. Most people who come to work with me see the scales come down in the first week and they're not even doing anything yet. I've not given them anything to do. I've given them a few things to think about, a couple of homework exercises, mindset exercises, and they already want to start treating themselves better. Then we get to day 7, then we look at that stuff. And again, they're not just left for a week to focus on food entirely. They've still got lessons to work through. And that kind of came from, if you remember, Forever Living, when they created that C9 cleanse thing. People stick to that really well and lose a lot of, not fat, but water weight, because there's like this ridiculous checklist of things to do. I know, because I did it twice. So it's like, right, drink your aloe vera shot first thing in the morning. Then take half a sachet of your fibre powder and mix that with water and have that mid-morning. Then do this, then do this. When you've got an instruction list to follow, and it makes you feel like you're doing something, you feel like you're achieving something. Right, that's me had my 12 o'clock this, that's me had my 3 o'clock this. Now I've just got that at 5 o'clock, and then I'll step on the scales in the morning. And it's almost as if you've given yourself a little task to achieve every few hours, that's less time spent thinking about food, less time spent battling with the process, and just you're following these instructions. And it was only for like 3 or 4 days or something, which is also great, because you've got this thing in your head where, oh, it's great. This is only, sorry, I'm going up the hill. It's only 3 days and then I can get back to normal again. So I wanted to take that element and bring that into the Monroe method, and that's why we do things the way we do in the first 30 days. So hopefully by the end of the 30 days, you have been following things for long enough to feel better. And once you feel better, you want to keep doing the things that are making you feel good. And that bakery example that I randomly latched onto is the perfect example, where they knew it was a problem because, as far as they were concerned, they were obsessed with it. They kept doing this. I kept checking the social media page. Oh, they've got this new thing. We'll need to go get those. We'll need to try those. That's just someone obsessing over having something to do, over having a reason to leave the house. Do you know? Here's an example. Like I don't know this person well enough, but I'm not making assumptions about them. I'm making assumptions about the situation, because you can apply this situation to anything. Let's say someone feels super guilty about not catching up with a particular friend, but they also don't want to catch up with that particular friend. They know they should, they don't want to, maybe they're avoiding it. They think about it a lot. They think about texting them often, but they don't know how to start the conversation because it's been so long. They want to just text them and say, hey, how are you? But they also feel like they need to kind of say, sorry, it's been so long. And so they don't send anything, right? But then you're left with a shitty feeling because that situation isn't changing. It's not improving. It's not going to fix itself. But you don't want to fix it. So you look for something else to do. Okay, instead of talking to that friend, I'm going to go and do this. And then you start looking for ridiculous tasks. You go and valet your car. Or you drag the kid's wardrobe out and decide you're going to redo it and put it all back in, and there's a bag of clothes for the charity shop or to go on Vinted. You look for other outlets for this horrible feeling that you've got. And all it is a distraction technique. It's procrastination. It's distracting you from the fact that you've got a difficult thing to do that you don't really want to do. And you're convincing yourself that by taking action elsewhere, that's you doing something. You're not doing anything about that, but you're doing something. And this can often be what it's like when we build these habits. We're using it to fill a gap. It could be that I'm just going to say it could be that you don't have much of a social life. I don't have a social life. That's by choice. I've always been like that, but once you stop drinking alcohol and you find out how little you have in common with some of the people you used to spend time with, I don't have much of a social life. And that suits me. I'm happy with that. You know that I don't know if I've spoken about it on here before. I love spending time on my own, love travelling on my own, love climbing mountains on my own. Maybe one day that'll change. But that's how it is just now. And I'm quite content like that. But there are some people who are alone and don't want to be. Some people might not have had kids by choice. All their friends have got kids. They feel like they don't have anything in common with them. It's very difficult. You're in, how many group chats are you in? How many girls' chats have you got where you try and arrange something as a group and it's a nightmare? Speaking from experience of having a wife who was in many group chats. Spending 11 months, we need to meet up, we need to get a catch up, we need to do this, we need to do that, doing nothing about it, or trying to do something about it, and one person says, we've got something on that weekend, we're away here, we've got a dancing competition. And you get to a point where you just give up with it. But you're still left with this hole in your life that needs to be filled. My social cup is empty. I'm bored, I'm lonely, I don't have any hobbies. I used to go out for coffee every week with this friend, but then she moved to Australia. That's left a hole in my life, and that hole I've now started filling with chocolate or wine or crisps. I used to go and have that catch up with that friend at the weekend. We used to go to this lovely coffee shop. We'd have coffee and a cake, talk for about 3 hours, and my battery was full. My cup was full, and it stayed full for the whole week because I knew I could look forward to it again the next week. You might have been a perfectly healthy weight then as well. You might not have had any eating issues. You probably didn't even have a second thought about chocolate. And then your friend left. And now there's a big hole. And there's nothing to fill that hole because you don't have another friend like that you can meet up with and chat like that with. And so on the Saturday morning that you normally went there, you don't even get out your jammies. You switch on the TV. You watch fucking morning... I don't watch TV. I don't know what's on. Cooking programmes. Is that still a thing? What's that guy's name? I can't remember. Anyway. And so you start reaching for things to fill that void. I didn't really talk properly about the topic that I wanted to, right? But the main focal point of this was supposed to be that you don't have to force yourself to do something all the way to the finish line. You need to shorten your thinking, right? You need to do something long enough to feel good. And then you focus on that good feeling and you ask yourself, why do I feel this good? You feel this good because you are no longer doing this, and this. All those things that you were doing to yourself, like waking up feeling like crap, the sluggishness, the hangovers, the brain fog, the lacking energy, the falling asleep at your desk at 2:00, trying to force your eyes to stay open. None of that's happening anymore. Why is none of that happening anymore? Well, because I'm not doing that, and that. Okay. Now, what's more important to you? Doing all of that stuff and making yourself feel like shit? Or this good feeling that you have? Well, obviously the good feeling that I have. Okay. So what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to keep doing this stuff. I'll leave it with this little thought, right? So I've spoken about this many times before, but there's this thing that I call... registered trademark to me, the cloud of overconsumption. And the cloud of overconsumption is that thing that you do to yourself when you overconsume. Now, don't confuse overconsuming with overeating. It can be, but not always. So, yes, there are people who are gaining weight because they overeat. They clear every plate, they eat when they're not hungry, they never feel hungry, they're constantly stuffed because they're eating too much. But there are plenty of people who overconsume without overeating. Meaning, the foods that you eat are very high in calories. Even though you don't feel full, even though you're still feeling hungry, you have a diet that lacks low-calorie filling power. You probably don't eat any fruits and vegetables. Your day starts with something very high in calories. Might even be chocolate mini rolls. A friend of mine used to eat a packet, 3 or 4 chocolate mini rolls before anyone woke up. Then having breakfast. Or it could be that you drink a lot of liquid calories. You know, you don't eat very much, but you're having 8 lattes a day at 200 or 300 calories, depending how and where they're made, and how much bells and whistles you add to them. Isn't it funny that coffee is 0 calories? I had one of my clients, a new guy that joined me, we did his first check-in, and it just so happened that while I don't analyse people's food diary, there's a page on Instagram where your top 3 contributors to your calories pop up. And right at the very top of his, I can't remember exactly right, but it was like basically milky coffee. It was lattes or cappuccinos. 2,500 calories in a week from, and this is how I joke about it, from coffee flavoured milk, right? If you think about coffee at its baseline, coffee is a 0 calorie beverage. I drink black coffee with 2 sweeteners, right? I ran out of milk one day at work many years ago. I drank the coffee black. I liked it. I have never drank it with milk since. I've never drank a latte since. I've never drank any kind of milky coffee. I just like black coffee. And that's great for me because it's adding 0 calories to my day. Whereas this guy, who shall not be named, was drinking 2,500 calories, like his daily calorie burn. So like, if you think of it this way, over 7 days, he's eating 8 days worth of food. He's not, because he's in a deficit and it was fine, but he's kept up with a habit, a 2,500 calorie habit. So if he wasn't working with me, and this is part of the reason he's gained weight, is that he's eating 2,500 calories worth of food every day. But across the week, he's also adding another 2,500 calories in coffee flavoured milk. And it's annoying because that market's getting ridiculously big just now. You'll know this if you've been in any supermarket recently. Nescafe? Nescafe have brought out these... It is Nescafe. They've brought out these glass bottles of concentrated latte and you just add milk to it. There's also, you can buy these cartons of iced coffee that you just pour out into ice. Starbucks are going hard with their range of glass bottle coffees. I see them on a stand in Aldi all the time. Like, I imagine they're very popular, otherwise why are they hammering it so much? They're not things I would ever think to buy. I can't allow myself to drink calories. It's just the way my mind works. And you know, I did an episode recently about liquid calories and how much of a problem they are. Anyway, how did I get into that? Don't know. Nearly done anyway. What was it? Oh, the cloud of overconsumption. Okay. So, back to the point. There are many people who don't overeat, but they overconsume. Like that guy that I just mentioned. Probably didn't feel like he was overeating, but the 400 or 500 calories worth of coffee that he's drinking every day wouldn't have felt particularly filling. You know, liquid calories are the big one. And again, I said this before, it's not as bad now. Go back 10 years and look at a 2-litre bottle of Coke or a 2-litre bottle of Iron Brew. The calories were astronomical. You know, and people just used to sit and guzzle that for fun. Because of all the kind of sugar tax stuff they've been forced to change their recipes, which you see lots of people complaining about. When really, they don't realise how much of a favour is being done for them. But anyway, it's very easy to overconsume without feeling stuffed or feeling full. God, I work with people who are so bloody confused about their weight. Like, I don't eat very much. I don't understand why my weight is where it is. I don't eat that much. I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely a thing. You could not be eating much, but you could be drinking 2 bottles of wine at the weekend at 1,200 calories, and you could be stopping at Costa Monday to Friday for a 300 calorie latte. And you could be drinking cans of full sugar Monster at however 200 and odd calories a can. So yeah, you might not be eating much. And if you stripped all the liquid calories out your diet, your weight would probably start coming down. So, cloud of overconsumption, that is the thing where when we put too many calories into our body, we feel yucky. We're overfueled. We've put, 100 litres of fuel into a tank that can only take 50 litres, and now we've got 50 extra litres of fuel sloshing about inside of us. And it makes us feel tired and bloated and sluggish and lethargic. And if it's coming from overeating, then you've also got the physical discomfort of putting too much food into your body and the yucky feeling that goes with that. And this is why, when I do that 1 week check-in on day 14 with my clients, and they all say the same thing. Almost every single person says the exact same thing. I feel lighter, I feel leaner, my clothes are fitting better, my measurements have already gone down, I feel less bloated, less tired, I've got so much more energy, and nothing's happened yet. We've not started losing weight, we've not started losing fat, nothing's really started happening. But what has happened is they're no longer treating their body like crap. They're no longer overfueling, they're no longer overeating. And I have the same conversation with every single one of them. The way that you felt before you felt like this, you were doing that to yourself. Through your overeating, your extra snacking, the calories that you were eating. Nothing magical has happened because you've started following the Monroe method, not just after 7 days. What has happened is, what you were doing to yourself was making you feel so crap that the minute you stopped it, you felt much better. And again, it swings back to that thing I mentioned before. Once you feel better and you understand why you felt worse, it makes it easier to not do those things. And once you start creating that link between, well, when I feel like this, it's not just, why is this happening to me? Why do I feel so tired? It's, well, actually, I ate quite a lot yesterday. I've probably woke up with quite a lot of calories from yesterday still in my body, still in my system. That's why I feel like this morning. And I don't want to feel like this anymore. So you do not need to be consistent all the way to the finish line. You only need to be consistent enough to feel better. And that gets you out your initial slump. After that, it's a different kind of consistency that you need. But do enough to feel better. And then analyze it. Why do I feel like this? Why do I feel good? What's making me feel so good? Well, you're no longer doing this. You're no longer doing that. You are doing this, this, and this. And these are what I call positive feedback loops. Positive feedback loops are where, we get ourselves into negative feedback loops, right? I've eaten so much, might as well keep going. I've already ruined my diet, might as well keep going. And we use the thing that we've done to justify doing the thing that made us feel like crap in the first place. That's a negative feedback loop. I've already started on a Friday, might as well keep going to Monday and start afresh. Positive feedback loops are the thing that people don't do. Okay, why do I feel so good right now? I feel so good because I'm doing this. Well, if that's making you feel good, then we're going to do more of it. Spend more time creating positive feedback loops instead of negative ones. And then do it at the start of a kind of diet phase, a weight loss phase. Take that time to acknowledge the feelings that you have, why you're feeling good, and then make the link between what you were doing before that made you feel worse. Anyway, that's quite enough for me. I'm probably going to spend a bit of time editing this one and chopping it down because it's been a lot longer than it should have been. Until next time. So what am I going to do about it?